Hello, I will talk about a COVID-19 constrained online teaching learning experience in animation at the UTAD. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted education systems worldwide, but it has also confirmed that online teaching learning has come to stay. Educational institutions in highly developed countries have fared relatively well in the crisis. Non-online universities have incorporated distance learning as a permanent resource. In this situation, hands-on studies like arts have been particularly affected, at least in theory. This paper discusses a study case, the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on a teaching learning experience at the University Center for Digital Art and Technology, called UTAD, shortened version, in Spain, in a course in the degree in animation, which took place before and during the lockdown, which started March 14th and ended 21st June 2020. There were 53 students distributed in two groups of the course Theory of Light and Color, and it was taught in English by me on the first year of the degree in animation at the UTAD during the second quarter of the year 2019-2020. The course started face-to-face on February 6th at the UTAD premises with 2 weekly hours of class and went on for 5 weeks before the lockdown in March. Classes were structured in a first part of theory, supported by PowerPoint presentations, and a second part of practice, where the professor went desk by desk to give feedback to the individual students on their works. The lockdown imposed a 1-week academic pause. The lost class was made up later. The ordinary schedule continued for the remaining 8 weeks, with distance classes through the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra platform, where communications took place through the microphone, the chat, and the presented material. The class time was mainly devoted to theory, as has happened also during lockdown in universities worldwide. And there was really little time for work sharing and for discussion. Individual feedback with the students was chiefly given through tutorships. At the end of the course, a survey on the students' assessment of the teacher's performance was carried out. The students at UTAD were actually very digital natives. Their difficulty in this course was to adapt to the analog technique of tempera. They say, why do we have to do this? In the digital format, the social function of teachers as facilitators of relations remains fundamental. The loss of direct contact was felt as a drawback by all, given the good interpersonal relationship already established. To humanize the re-encounter after the course, the first online class was initiated with real-time video conferencing. The foremost need of students was to reconnect as a group and to confirm that their classmates were fine. They were also keen on knowing the professor's welfare. In subsequent classes, the first minutes were always devoted to greeting and checking on each other, caring for the persons before dealing with the contents. An atmosphere of support, respect and listening is important if the classes are to prosper constructively with motivation and engagement. Thinking positively fosters good student results, as demonstrated in the well-known Pygmalion effect. Finally, a sense of humor, usually present in my classes, was preserved, both in oral communications and also in chats. Despite the technological sophistication of the platform, what actually maintained best the interpersonal bond and the student motivation was a very analog element, live communication through the voice. The online format entails a lot of a loss of aspects of communication, but the voice delivers nonverbal dimensions such as tone, rhythm, volume, intonation, and so on, full of communicative nuances and possessing an intimate dimension that confers liveliness, enhancing the sense of presence to a high degree. In online classes, the contents were delivered sharing PowerPoints with camera off to reduce the network overload for the server, and with a microphone on for voice comments to be made live. Additionally, other resources were shared, alternating with surveys and chats to receive student feedback and capture their attention and involvement. The training the platform use was offered during the first week of lockdown, as we mentioned, and actually classes resumed 100% online on the usual schedule. All the study program was completed. In comparison, distant learning required to sacrifice a great deal of the practical part of the class. At home, the students could not work with tempera on their desks, while simultaneously their computers occupied most of the working space. Hence, relatively little time was used to share and comment the practical assignments, to avoid boring the rest of the students who could not proceed with their work meanwhile. To compensate for this, tutorships involving writing and image sharing were carried out through the virtual campus and by email. The investment in teaching time increased considerably. In addition to training seminars and coordination meetings, issues that could have been swiftly solved face-to-face before required constant access to the digital platform and the email. The agility of real-time two-way communication was lost, and students often needed to wait for the professor's feedback, interrupted their creative processes, which could be happening in the middle of the night. The increase in workload experienced as a professor is coherent with the repeated pattern in the brick-and-mortar universities, an exhaustion bordering on burnout. For the students, in contrast with other courses, the lockdown did not carry with it an increase in workload in my course. The initial study plan and assignments remained unaltered, which was very much appreciated by the students. Despite the lockdown, the quality of the student work was satisfactory. The average student mark was 7.27 over 10, and the student survey on their assessment of the teacher's performance resulted in an average 86.45% satisfaction. The professor also received spontaneous positive feedback from the students as well as from the head of studies. Broadly considered, the lockdown imposed did not fundamentally hamper the development of the class, although some aspects of the teaching-learning process were lost, notably the direct feedback on students' works while they were being executed. Despite the experimental nature of the required assignments, these were carried out satisfactorily. The virtual classroom through the Blackboard Collaborate platform was a great help in many aspects, the most salient of which was the possibility of using real-time voice, which greatly enhances the sense of presence. Considerable importance was given to human contact and support, which is deemed fundamental in times of crisis. This experience will hopefully serve to better plan for similar courses in the next 2020-2021 academic year, in which there will probably be a mixed scenario of physical and distance teaching learning. The greatest challenge will be to increase the ratio of practical work during class hours, since the time for online class has been devoted to theory almost in its entirety. This is my information. Feel free to contact me for any doubts or questions. And thank you very much.